Okay, there we go. So I thought we'd get into a little bit of the nitty gritty today. I think a lot of times when it's really good to do a little bit of reset, and there's for your pelvis, and there's so many ways that one can do a pelvic reset. I mean, there's so many things that can get our pelvis to, do funky things and get offline. And there's lots and lots and lots of ways to try to get it back to, a stable, steady place. But today, a little bit less about, a focus on stability and a little bit more about just exploring all of the muscles that kind of activate the pelvis that are involved in supporting the pelvis or supporting the movement that the pelvis does. Um, and I think it's nice sometimes to just kind of feel like, oh, that's my hamstrings, oh, that's my inner thighs, oh, that's my hip flexors, oh, that's my glutes, that's, like, kind of really take your time to sense these movements and then put them in a big movement like a squat or something where suddenly you have all these movements working together, all these muscles moving in concert to help you have a very big beautiful movement in the body. And a lot of times we do this all day long when we walk or when we bend down to pick something up or when we roll over at and push ourselves up and hop out of bed. Like we utilize a lot of these movements. But I think sometimes it's nice to kind of not break it down, but isolate some things and really feel and kind of get into that. I like that. I know at least one person on this screen likes that, Maggie. Um, but that's what we're going to do today. So bear with like a little bit of a different kind of practice. And maybe it will help you figure out if you have something going on where, I don't know, you have a little hitch in your step or a little pain in your low back or your SI joints are a little wonky or, whatever is happening for you. So hopefully it will be a good practice for you. If anything that we do, we're going to do some unusual movements. So if anything doesn't feel right to you because of something that you've got going on, always remember that you can modify anything and everything to be less, more, different, however you need for your body. So this is a kind of a self exploration practice. All right. Okay. So let's sit up straight and tall and take a moment to drop your awareness into your body. Somebody just wrote something. Yes, wonky is definitely a technical term, Steve. It's all about the medical literature. I'm sure of it. All right. So drop your attention down into your body and just take a moment to breathe and get yourself here. Whatever has come before. Maybe you've had a busy morning and you're just quickly settling onto your mat. Maybe you've been slower in the morning and have had a lot of time to focus on your breath and body today. Who knows where you're at, but here we are. To drop into your breathing, see if you can slow things down just a little bit. Allow your shoulders to release, feeling a sense of ease across your face. Notice your skull and any tension you might have that you could just use a little freedom, use a little release. Find what you can. As you let your breath go billowy and deep in your body, let's notice our abdomen and our pelvis. Pay attention to how you are sitting and if you feel stable on your pedestal. Does your pelvis feel supportive to you? Is there an ease of the way your pelvis is tilted, either a little forward or a little back? Have you found your sweet spot that supports your spine well? Are you able to feel your pelvis breathe? Where you're not just locked on lockdown, but that there's a sense of spaciousness on the inhale, a widening, and on the exhale, a sense of drawing in. Can you let the rhythm of your breath not just move your ribs and your lungs, but your pelvis as well? Notice your legs. Are they able to relax or are they tense and gripped? Do you feel the need that you have to kind of hold your knees to keep yourself upright, or can you relax them down? Bring yourself into the big picture of your whole body, your whole breath. From here, let's bring our hands together. Offer an intention for your practice today. Let's release your hands. All right, so let's come onto our mat. You need a couple of blocks. You need a smushy ball. Forgot to mention that in the beginning. So if you have your smushy ball, make it smushy. It's not totally inflated. And if you don't have a smushy ball, no problem. We'll use a block instead for our plan B. All right. Okay, so let's stretch out and lengthen our body on your mat and have a moment of just gratitude for here we are, getting to spend an hour taking care of ourselves and being present with ourselves. What a beautiful, beautiful thing. All right, so stretch your arms overhead. Maybe one side lengthens, maybe the other side. And as you do this, notice your pelvis. So accentuate that hiking of one hip up and then the hiking of the other hip up. And just notice what muscles do that. And the side that's opening, can you stretch and lengthen? And then reach your arms overhead, reach your legs long, feel at full length. And then draw your knees into your chest and let your back relax a little bit. A little swaying from side to side. Hang on to your knees and let's circle and see if you can just allow a deep sense of ease to come into your hips and your pelvis, your sacrum, your low back, all these various little places to see if you can ease everything up. Circle the other direction. All right, and then let's circle the third direction where we bring our knees away from the midline and swing them back in. So notice the trajectory of movement that your hips take. Are they straight lines? Are they zigzaggy lines? Are they circular lines? You know, what's comfortable for getting into the movement of your hip joints. All right, and then right knee into your chest, left leg long on the ground, and roll around your ankles and wiggle your toes, stretch open your feet, just get your feet to join the party. Keep your head nice and relaxed. Shoulders are resting on the ground as best as you can. All right, a good squeeze of that knee, switch legs, left knee in, right leg long on the ground, and feel free to move around in your ankles and wiggle your toes and spread your feet, whatever kind of movement that feels good. Savor what you're sensing. All right, and then release your legs, starfish your body out, stretch your body out. And then as you exhale, draw your head and knees coming into your chest. One more time. Open big and wide. Exhale. Draw your knees in, pick up your head. Put your head back down, come into a happy baby pose. And you can hold behind your knees if holding your feet this early in class is a little much. Okay, so a little bit of rocking. Let your low back open a little bit and just enjoy. Great, and then stretch your limbs out like a star again. And I think all of you have done this with me, but this feels best, I think, when your heels are on a wood floor, but that's not always an option. So we're going to push our legs out like a star and externally rotate our legs, toes turn out, and then drag your heels in toward your pelvis with your knees turned out, and then turn them into an internal rotation. Press your heels and drag them out again, and then drag them back in toward the pelvis, staying in that internal rotation, and then turn your knees out, heels stay down, push the
away. So you straighten your legs, then drag them back in internal rotation. Switch when you get up there, and just go back and forth between pushing your heels out and pulling them back in with your legs in external rotation, and then your legs in internal rotation. So your knees pushing out to the sides, knees drawing in. And just kind of getting into the range of motion that's available here for that. And then when you're ready, rest that. Notice awakeness in your hips, that you're already now finding some awakeness in the pelvis. All right, let's windshield wiper your knees left and right. Just get a nice easiness across your hips. The fluid movement of dropping your knees to one side and then dropping to the other. Feel free to turn your head in opposition. All right, and then let's roll to our side and come up onto our hands and our knees. All right, so as you find your way onto all fours, cat cows is such a beautiful way to warm the spine up. So let's start there. Okay. Where we're just going between some extension of the spine and some flexion of the spine, moving with your breath. Pay attention to your whole body. What moves easily? What maybe doesn't move so easily? After a few rounds of this, feel free to move it any way you want. You can wag your tail, you can circle your hips, you can move around in your shoulders, move your head around. So think less, feel more. And then when you feel ready, drop back towards child's pose and take your knees wherever you want them to be, close or far, so that you really get into the compression of your hips. Stretch your arms, let your shoulders and lats open up. And then let's walk the hands to one side or the other so we feel this beautiful length in our side. Drop some hip weight down. And then over to the other side you go, feeling a sense of drop through your hips, opening up through your ribs. Breathing well. And come back to center, back up onto your all fours again. Move around in your spine. Doesn't it feel good to just have your spine start to get a little more supple? Reach that arm up, either arm up in the air. Exhale, drop your shoulder down and twist. Full breaths here. Enjoy. And inhale, bring that arm back up in the air. Hand comes down, switching sides. Arm up, slide your arm under, twisting to the side. Full breaths. And then when you're ready, that arm can come all the way back up in the air. Hand down onto the ground. Curl your toes under. Come off the ground with your knees, dog pose. Take your time to pedal your feet here. Get your feet open, your calves, Achilles to open. Feel a deep grounding of your hands and your feet as you move a little bit in this pose. How's your breathing? Doesn't it feel good to be in this posture? Enjoy. Feel your deep roots. Feel the rising tide of your spine. Let your head melt. Breathe deeply and fully. Let's take our feet a little wider here to the edges of your mat. Push off your hands again. Feel that extension. Then walk your feet forward. Come to Uttanasana, a deep forward fold. Relax your neck. Let it bobble and sway if you need. Inhale for a halfway lift, gathering some length in your spine. Let your femur bones lift up and back. Stretch the backs of your legs. Lift your sit bones. And exhale, folding deeply. Let your knees bend. Let your spine waterfall. Relax your head. Push off your feet, rising up. Bring the arms to the sky. Feeling that reaching upward. Let's cactus open the arms and enjoy the chest opening. Squeeze the back body a little bit. Inhale, arms up again. And then exhale. And swan dive forward. A halfway lift. Spine gets longer. Melt and fold. Let's step our left foot back. Come to a lunge on this side, warming up your legs. Open up through your heart. Feel your hip flexors open. And let's start to move. Straightening and bending the front knee. Bowing and lifting the head. Breathing in and out. Enjoying what your body is capable of. Right, ground into your lunge. Push off your feet. Rise up, crescent lunge. Arms coming up, open up. Lift your heart to the sky. Feel the deep ground. Try not to compress your low back, but feel your ribs lift off. Your hips. And exhale, hands down, back, foot comes forward, fold. Inhale for a halfway lift. Gather the length of your legs and spine. Exhale and melt again. Step your right foot back. Come to a lunge this side. Enjoy. Feel the openness of this leg. Breathe your heart open. And let's bend and straighten this knee. Just enjoy that movement of breath, movement of your body. Feeling your hamstrings and your glutes open up. Feeling your hip flexors open up. Ready, ground your legs, push off your feet, rising up for a crescent lunge. Put your arms anywhere you want. Feel the deep roots. So come into your lunge well. Press your front foot into the ground, starting to turn on the leg muscles. Full breath in. Complete breath out. All right, let's bring our hands down onto the ground to dog pose again. Extending the spine. Are you feeling yourself get warmer and more enlivened? Come forward into a plank when you're ready and start to feel your core engage. Shoulders away from the ears. Feel the pressing of your whole hands. Put your knees on the ground if you need. Find the earth. Roll the shoulders. Inhale for a cobra. The chest opens up big. Exhale. Melting back down. One more time. Feeling that length of the spine. Exhale. Release to the ground. Up onto all fours. Move your spine around. Curl your toes under. Lift to a dog. Walk your feet forward. And let's take our feet and turn sideways on your mat. So you have nice wide legs. Bend into your right knee. Open up the inner thighs of that left leg. And then bend into the left knee. Opening up the inner thigh of the right leg. One more time, each direction. Just kind of waking up the inseams of our legs a little bit. And then come on up to a deeper squat. Elbows inside your knees. We'll ground through the four corners of your feet. Breathing well. Push up to stand, standing star. Big breath in. Exhale. Coming down to a deep squat. Keep your torso lifting. Inhale, rising back up. Twice more. Keep your torso upright. Try not to lean forward. And warming up all those muscles around our pelvis. And then coming to stand. Turn back to the front of your mat. A dog pose again. Wide legs, turn your toes in. Full breaths here. Straighten out your legs again, a plank pose. Shoulders away from the ears. Integrate your ribs. And let's put our knees down onto the ground. Okay. We're going to be on the floor for a little bit now. Make sure you have 2 blocks and make sure you have your smushy ball. We'll start with the smushy ball. Okay, so we're going to lie down on our back and we're going to put this smushy ball under our sacrum. And this is just so that we can, the transverse abdominis, your deep abdominal muscle, we're starting here because this is an integral part of maintaining stability in your pelvis, is finding this muscle. So we're going to start with, you can keep your feet down if this is better for your back. If you're a little vulnerable for some reason today, do this with your feet on the ground. If you're okay, pick your feet up off the ground, knees over your hips. Find your breath and just start to feel the stability of your core. Try not to let your shoulders or your neck do the work. So sometimes I lift my arms over my chest like this so that I'm assured that my arms and shoulders are not doing the work of stabilizing me. And when you're ready, arms either down at your sides or up, we're going to tap one heel and then lift it back up and tap the other heel. And if you're starting with your feet on the ground, you're going to lift one knee up and put that foot back down and then lift the other knee up and put the foot back down. So be very mindful. You can put your hands, anywhere you want so that you're assured that you're not using your arms to stabilize you. Okay, we're using our core. Try to minimize the wobble on the block as much as you can. Notice your head. Try not to press your head into the ground. Find your breathing. Engage those deep core muscles, your hip flexors and your transverse abdominis. Breathing well. And then we'll rest our feet on the ground. Just notice the stability that's starting to come alive in your center body. Okay. One more time, we'll lift up our knees off the ground. And this time, keep the soles of your feet together and we're just going to butterfly our knees out and in. And just see how stable you can stay on the ball without using your head, without using your arms. It's all about your core. And then release your feet down onto the ground. Release the ball. Come set your pelvis back down on the ground. Sometimes this feels like taking ice skates off and finding the ground again. Start to just notice. Take a deep breath. We're going to roll over onto our right side. We're going to go back there onto our back in a minute, but first we'll be here. Bend your knees. Okay, some clamshells. You can always use a block under your head if you want a little pillow. Okay, stack your hips, stack your knees, stack your feet. You can keep your hand on your hip. I like to keep my hand here because it helps me make sure I'm not rolling back. All right, so we don't want our torso to roll here. We want to stack everything. And we're only opening our knee, like a clamshell opening and shutting. So our feet stay together, our knees come apart, and then our knees come back together. You can put your hand in front of you to help you stabilize if you want, but try not to rock your torso. We're really isolating this action in the hips. Feel free to have a little grounding of that leg that's on the ground. You can just feel it root down as you open the other knee up. Notice your pelvic floor. Notice your transverse abdominis, that muscle we just worked with. Notice your breathing. Try not to hold a lot of tension in your neck and shoulders. Relax what you can. Feeling that isolation of some of these smaller muscles in your hips. so terrible at counting. So sorry about that. Should probably count. All right, and then rest. And just notice what dissipates. Where are you feeling this? Okay, now we're gonna straighten the top leg. You can do a little readjusting if you need. And we're gonna inhale and just do, like old school Jane Fonda leg lifts, right? So where toes are pointing straight forward toward, the front of your body, and we're engaging the full core as we're here. So not letting go of the center body. You can press your other leg into the ground a little bit to support you. Make sure your neck is nice and relaxed. This should start feeling a little achy, right in those outer hip muscles. These are your gluteus medius and gluteus minimus. Very important muscles for stabilizing your hips. All right. And then relax and draw that knee into your chest. And we'll roll over to your other side, and we're going to repeat those two things on the other side. All right, so as you lie on your left, a block underneath your head if you need it. Bend your knees. We're stacking our feet, our knees, and our hips. We're stacking our ribs. We're stacking our shoulders. We're not letting our torso roll in this pose. We're opening the knee like a clamshell and then dropping the knee back down to the other knee. So as your right knee lifts, notice, obviously you might be a little bit more fatigued because even though it doesn't feel like we're doing a lot with the bottom leg, we are. So you might already be a little bit fatigued doing this on this side. So fatigue is good because it teaches us really like, oh, those muscles, that's where they live. That's the action of those deep six lateral rotating muscles of your pelvis, your piriformis, and others. So breathing well. Try not to move too quickly so you can feel the range both on the up and the down. When you feel about even, I have to move so my leg can straighten. We're going to straighten the top leg, keep the bottom leg bent, okay, readjust anything that needs adjusting, and we're going to lift that leg straight in the air. Now notice we're not bringing it forward. We could do that. We could dance in a lot of ranges, and we are going to dance in a lot of ranges, but for right now, we're just literally lifting the whole leg up toward the sky and bringing it back down. Toes are pointing forward. So there's a neutral femur bone. We're not internally rotating. We're not externally rotating. Find your breath. Melt your head. Engage your core so that the center of your body is working. All right. And then we'll relax and come onto your back. Stretch your legs straight and just let them float. Okay, so internal, external rotation, just let them flop about. We'll do a simple twist. Put your feet on the ground, turn your hips or bring your hips over to the right, drop your knees left, and open up to the side. Check in with your back. So, hopefully so far we've really isolated the fronts and sides of your pelvis, not that, you shouldn't be feeling a lot of strain in your low back. So if you are, be very mindful as we proceed. Switch sides. Breathing well. Just let your legs relax. All right, roll over onto your side. We're going to go back there onto our back in a minute, but this part we'll do sitting, and we need a block. All right. You can have the block on the low height, the middle height. You could even try the high height. I'm going to go the middle height. Okay. And we're going to start with our block kind of on the outside of our left leg. All right, so start with your legs together. You can lean back a little bit and put your hands on the ground to support you so that you have some support for your back. So don't feel like you have to be totally upright. You can be, but find a sweet spot for you. Now engage. Press your femur bones down into the ground. We're going to lift one leg up and bring it to the side, and then bring that left leg back. Okay. Clearing the block. Clearing the block. Feel your quads, very isolating. Do one more. Rest a moment. And we'll put the block next to our right leg. Check in with your back. How's it doing? Okay, engage your core. Before we start moving anywhere, thigh bones pressed down, core is engaged. And then finding breath. If you get a cramp in your quad, just rest a minute, see what you can do. Notice if you're trying to compensate with other parts of your body, engage your core the whole way. And then relax. Okay. We're going to come back onto our back. All right, grab the blocks. We're going to do a very similar thing, but with our back flat on the ground now. So block next to your right leg will begin. Okay. Find your legs together. Find, again, just like before, we're trying not to let our arms and our head do a lot of the work. Engage your core as you lift that leg up and cross over, clear the block. Let's see if you can do 5 on each side. Now stabilize. Try to minimize what's happening in the pelvis as you do this action. Nice and slow. If you go too fast, you lose that awareness of what you're doing to stabilize while you're here. Of course, you can do more. I don't want you to overtax, but do at least 5. Okay? And then when you're ready, scoot that block to the right on the outside of your left shin. Lie down. Engage your core. So the core comes first. Lift that leg up, clear the block, and then back. Go slow so you can sense all the stability that's happening. Your right leg is doing a fair amount of work. Your core is doing a fair amount of work. Try not to let your head do the work. Try not to let your arms do the work. Breathing well. Nice and stable with that right leg as you lift and clear the block with your left. After you've done however many you're going to do, rest for a moment. Finding your breath. Okay, we're going to move toward the back of our body now. Let's warm up with you need blocks in a minute, so have them close. Let's warm up with a couple of just moving bridge poses. So ground the 4 corners of your feet. Take a deep breath. Arms can come up overhead as your pelvis lifts. And then exhale to lower your pelvis back down. Once more. Arms overhead. Start to feel those hamstrings and your glutes. And then exhale and come back down. All right, so this is a little different. We're going to start with one-leggeds and then we'll join. We're going to put our left foot on the block. So low height of the block. You can have the block, for across or the full length of your foot, whatever feels comfortable. But our left foot's going to be on the block. All right, take a deep breath in. Lift up to a one-legged bridge. Right leg is coming up in the air, and you can bend your knee if that's preferable. And we're going to slowly dip our pelvis back down and then lift back up. One-legged bridges. All right, so go slow. so that you can really, and don't let your arms grab onto the mat to try to do the work. See if you can really isolate those inner thighs and hamstring muscles. How's your breathing? Push through your foot. Engage your glutes to lift your pelvis. Try to do, somewhere in between 5 and 10. Let's see where your body's at. And then rest down. 2 feet on the ground. Feel free to butterfly your knees open for a moment. And then we'll scoot that block over to underneath our right foot. Okay, we're going to lift our pelvis up. Left leg is going to come in the air. Your knee can be bent if that's more comfortable, or leg straight. We're going to dip our pelvis back down and push on up. Try not to use the shoulders or the neck or the arms. We're isolating those hamstrings, inner thighs, and glutes. Let your core help a little bit so we're nice and stable, moving super slow. Breathing deeply. One more. And then lower your body down. 2 feet on the ground. Put the soles of your feet on the block and let your knees butterfly out for a moment. Breathing well. Your upper body rests on the ground. All right. Now we're going to take 2 blocks, low height, put them like railroad cars so the short edges are touching. So you have a block for each foot. We're going to start with hip width apart with our feet. Okay? Again, we're not using our head, neck, shoulders, arms to do the work here. We're going to inhale, lift up, so a high bridge, and then slowly lower the pelvis back down. You can climb a little bit higher under your shoulders for a more bridge kind of feeling if that feels good. But we're moving here. Slow and steady, dropping the pelvis all the way down, pushing through the feet and lifting the pelvis back up. Now notice, do you have preference? Are you stronger on one side versus the other? Feel your glutes, feel your hamstrings. Feel your inner thighs. Squeeze at the top and then slowly lower down. Let's do 2 more. Squeeze at the top. I told you it'd be a little bit of an unusual yoga practice today, kind of really isolating and getting into some nooks and crannies. So are you enjoying getting into these nooks and crannies? All right, and then relax for a moment. Just rest. You can open your knees or windshield wiper your knees or just be still. All right, this next variation is a little bit different. Okay, so we're going to, when we lift our pelvis up, we're going to bring our knees wide, hips up high, and then exhale. And as your hips drop down, your knees come back to hip width apart. Open your knees wide, hips come up, and then slowly lower your hips, and then bring your knees back to neutral. A few passes. Open those knees, lift your hips high, drop your hips down, knees back to neutral. Try to go super slow. The knees open first, and then you lift. You can hang out at the top for a little bit if you want to give a good squeeze. And then you lower down, and then your knees come back to neutral. Open knees up. Pelvis comes up. Pelvis comes down. Knees back in. So we're starting to put a few different muscle groups together now. So open the knees. You're working with a lot of those external rotators, along with your glutes, along with your inner thighs, along with your hamstrings. These are all muscles that engage the pelvis on some level. One more. Lifting your hips high. Hang out there for a moment. Give them a good squeeze. And then hips drop down and relax your legs. So take your feet. So hopefully your legs are nice and wide. Your feet are on the edges of those blocks that are wide next to each other. Knock your knees. Just let things relax for a moment. Breathing well. All right, and the last thing we're going to do is with our feet, the inside of edge of our feet, hugging the block, engage your core. And we're just doing some squeezes. Okay, so a little bit different energy for your pelvic floor. Try not to let your glutes do all the work, but we're sharing a lot of muscle groups here. So hug the block, engage your core, press your feet into the ground, and then release your knees a little wider, relax away from the block with your feet, and just do a few passes. We're not lifting our pelvis up any longer. You could if you want to. You could add that to it if you'd like. But we're mostly just trying to feel the pelvic floor itself and all the muscles that are part of the pelvic floor and also kind of expand away from the pelvic floor. So a hugging of that block and a releasing of the blocks. Nice wide legs. All right, and then for the grand finale, before we stand up, let's hug the feet against the blocks, bring your knees in a little, and lift your pelvis. See if you can find your inner thighs, your hamstrings, your glutes, your pelvic floor, your outer hips. Oh, I just got a cramp. All right, and then relax and melt your way out of there. Okay. Let's roll to your side and come into dog pose. It's going to feel so good to stretch out your hamstrings and your glutes after all of that. All right, so take a little time. Pedal your feet. Open up those hamstrings. Let them feel their space. A breath in and a breath out. Take your feet a little wider. Turn your feet in. Feel what the openness of your hips and legs feels like there. And then walk your feet forward. Come to Uttanasana. A halfway lift. And then let's find our way into a chair pose. This is going to feel good after all the work that you've done. Hopefully your chair pose is just going to feel super solid. Reach the arms up. Press your feet into the ground. You can have your knees apart or together. Reach and extend. Feel the groundedness. So many muscles in your legs supporting you right now. Core is supporting you. Pelvic floor is supporting you. Can you feel everything turned on? And then come on up. Tippy toes if you'd like. And take your arms down. Straighten your legs. Let's take a wide stance. Okay. First, a deep squat. Elbows inside knees. Just get used to that deep squatting again. Come back up. Just like we did in the beginning, we'll do some goddess poses. All right. So find your way up. Arms coming broadly. Turn your feet out. Exhale. Drop in. Feel your chest stay upright. Push your feet into the ground. Inhale. Straighten back up. Can you feel everything we've just done? Okay. Can you feel how solid your support is? Or maybe it doesn't feel solid. Maybe you're kind of shaky because that was a lot of work. Okay. But just know all these muscles are synchronizing to help you push yourself straight, to help you drop down. Okay. All right. Rest for a moment. The last thing we're going to do before we just come into some beautiful, yummy stretches is to move. We're not going to do the standing poses like we normally do, like Virabhadrasana, but we're just going to move from feeling our sense from one side to the other. And you can choose any which way you want to transition, but just notice how strong your supportive legs are, and that your pelvis is the recipient of all this strength, and that you can keep yourself with a lot of integrity as your chest stays up instead of having to lean forward to support yourself. Breathing well can look so many different ways, right? And then come up to stand in Tadasana. All this just to prepare ourselves to stand, right? Feel free to rock a little bit onto your toes or heels. Feel free to shake a little bit if you'd like. Feet hip width apart. Tiny little bend in your knees. Upright posture, your spine is supported by the pedestal of your pelvis. Your pelvis is supported by your legs. Can you feel as you're bending your knees just a little bit? Your hamstrings, your glutes, your inner thighs, your outer hips, your core, your quads. Everything's available. You can move in any direction from here. If someone came behind you, if we were in class together, I'd have you doing that walk me where we kind of gently press into each other and find different ways of moving that are unexpected, so that really you have so much stability and groundedness in your pelvis that you can move in any direction. Notice if your back feels free. I hope so. I'm hoping that nothing strained your back, but that instead all the strength of the muscles around your legs and pelvis are a deep support for your back. Let's find our way onto our back and grab a strap. All right, so lying down on your back, let's wrap the strap around your right foot and lift that leg straight up in the air. Relax your shoulders. Let your right femur bone settle into the floor. Opening up the hamstrings and the glutes. Feel your spine lengthen. You can have your left foot on the ground or your left leg straight, whatever feels better in your body. Okay, we're going to take the strap into the right hand and open up the right leg. So, a lot of those glute bridge lift things, we think it's our hamstrings kind of that are doing the work, and they are. But notice now when you're doing the stretch, how much your inner thigh muscles shared the burden of what you did. Now lift that leg up. Take the strap into the left hand. You might want to straighten your left leg now. Cross the right leg over, opening up those outer hip muscles. See, you might want to stick your heel of your hand in the hip crease and press away. Let's release that and put your right foot on your left knee. Reverse your pigeon pose. Still on that right side. Right foot on left knee. Check in with your pelvis. Make sure that you didn't hike one hip up. Keep your head neutral and relaxed. Soften your shoulders. Release your 2 feet on the ground. Just rest for a moment before we switch sides. Feel your back, the balance of your pelvis. And then when you're ready, left foot in the strap. Right knee can be bent or right leg can be on the ground, whichever feels better. Opening up through the hamstring, toes down, heel up, drop your femur bone, feel the spine get long. Relax your shoulders. And then open up your left leg out to the left. You can straighten the right leg. You can butterfly your right knee out, whatever feels good, so that you're opening up those inner thigh muscles, the innermost hamstring muscle. Breathing well. And lift that leg straight up in the air. Take the strap in the right hand. Cross left leg over to the right. Left hand can sit in that hip crease and press it away if you'd like. Opening up those outer hips. And when you're ready, we can take reverse pigeon pose on this side. Left foot on right knee. Hold behind your hamstring or the front of your shin or however you want to grab on. Let your head relax. Open up that. And relax and put your feet on the ground. Breathe here a moment. We'll lift your hips, scoot them to the right, knees drop over to the left, twist your spine. Roll all the way to your left side. Grab onto your right knee or right ankle and stretch your right quad. Heel toward your sit bone. Relax that. Come back onto your back. Lift your hips, scoot them to the left. Knees come up, drop to the right. Twisting open. Breathing deeply. Roll to your right side, grab your left ankle, and stretch your left quad. And we'll come back onto our back, knees to chest, a little bit of rocking, maybe a happy baby pose, maybe a rocking happy baby pose, maybe some rocking plow, okay? Whatever your body needs. And then Shavasana comes when you're ready. You can lie flat, you can support underneath your knees to let your hips relax a little bit more. A little bolster under your knees can sometimes make a big difference in that. Okay. So as you settle, remember all the basics of Shavasana. No bright lights on your face. Make sure you're warm. Be comfortable in your body. Make sure you have the props that you need. Take support, that's right. Once you get settled, let your body totally relax. Spine is resting. Your head is heavy. Feel the ease move through your body, move through your breath. Heavy, heavy hips and pelvis and legs. Again, feel that breath traveling into the pelvic floor, a sense of billowing out, expansive pelvis. Exhale to surrender. Breathe deeply. Move your body in small little ways. Rolling over and come to a comfortable seat when you feel ready. Take your time. And as you find yourself upright, let's just have a moment to bring our palms together. Feel
the groundedness. I'm hoping that you feel grounded. That the sense of working with the legs and the pelvis gives us this deep connection with our roots. Offer this grounded energy outward. Namaste. Thank you, everyone. With this new Zoom thing, I have to figure out how to